The sun burned high over Red Creek as Sheriff Jack Harding adjusted his bolo tie, his palms sweating. Inside the church, Clara Whitaker smoothed her ivory wedding dress and glared at her reflection. She wasn't some delicate flower to faint at trouble. She'd faced down bandits and badlands storms with the same steel in her spine. The organ music began. Clara took a deep breath and stepped into the aisle. Jack turned, his breath catching at the sight of her. Wild auburn curls barely tamed, that defiant spark in her green eyes. For one perfect moment, everything was right in the world. Then the church doors exploded inward. Masked riders stormed down the aisle, guns drawn. Before Jack could reach his Colt, a rifle barrel pressed against his temple. Clara screamed as rough hands grabbed her. The lead bandit tore her veil from the pew, his scarred lips twisting into a grin. "Well now, Sheriff," Silas Granger drawled, "looks like I'll be taking something precious from you today." Clara fought like a wildcat, her boot connecting hard with a bandit's knee. He cursed, but Silas just laughed. "Spirited. I like that." Jack lunged. A gunshot roared through the church. By the time the smoke cleared, Silas and his men were gone, and so was Clara. The sheriff stared at the empty doorway, his hands shaking, not from fear, but from the cold fury building in his chest. Somewhere out there in the badlands, his bride was fighting, and Jack would tear the whole territory apart to get her back. The church doors swung empty in the wind. The only trace of Clara, a single ivory button glinting in the dust. Jack knelt to pick it up. The metal warmed from her touch. Around him, townsfolk whispered like dry leaves, their eyes darting between the sheriff and the eastern horizon where the bandits had disappeared. Old Doc Henderson wiped his spectacles with shaky hands. "They took young Billy, too," he said. "The blacksmith's boy tried to stop 'em." Jack's thumb traced the grooves of Clara's button. "How many riders?" "6, maybe 7, answered the bartender Tom. His apron was stained with whiskey from dropped bottles. "Silas Granger's boys, for certain. That scar his?" Tom drew a finger across his own lip. The memory came sharp and sudden. 2 years back, a moonless night outside Laramie, a wanted man sobbing in the dirt, begging for his life. "My brother will come for you," the outlaw had screamed as Jack fitted the noose. Now that promise had come new. Clara's knees scraped against sandstone as the bandits shoved her into their canyon hideout. The air smelled of gunpowder and unwashed men. Silas crouched before her, his scar pulling his smile into a permanent sneer. "Comfortable, princess?" He dangled her torn veil like a trophy. Clara tested her ropes. "I've had better accommodations. The jailhouse cot was softer." Laughter rippled through the outlaws. Silas backhanded her hard enough to taste blood. "Your sheriff's probably halfway to Mexico by now." She spat red into the dirt. "Silas is coming, and when he does, I'll be wearing your ears as jewelry." Silas grabbed a fistful of her hair, forcing her to look east where the cliffs glowed like embers in the setting sun. "See those canyons? They're full of lawmen's bones. Let 'em try." Back in Red Creek, Jack buckled on his spare coat. The saloon mirror showed a stranger, eyes dark as bullet holes, the wedding band still shining on his left hand. "You're crazy, Harding." Mayor Jenkins blocked the door, his jowls quivering. "That's Granger's territory. Even the army won't go in there." Jack tossed a wanted poster on the desk. The sketch showed Silas's face beneath the bold print, $500 dead or alive. "Then it's a good thing I'm not the army." Outside, 2 men waited in the gathering dark. Eli Carter, the half-Cherokee tracker, tested the wind with a wet finger. Beside him, Deputy Tate adjusted his overlarge hat for the 10th time. "You ever kill a man, kid?" Tate's Adam's apple bobbed. "No, sir, but I'm a fair shot with a Winchester." Eli spat tobacco. "Fair won't cut it where we're going." As they rode out, the town's women lined the street, holding lanterns that cast long, wavering shadows. No cheers followed them, only the slow tolling of the church bell, 3 solemn strikes that hung in the air like a verdict. Somewhere ahead, beyond the maze of red rock and rattlesnakes, Clara would be counting those same hours. Jack touched the button in his pocket. Every mile between them burned like a brand. The posse disappeared into the night, the desert swallowing their hoofbeats. Far to the east, a single coyote howled. Then silence. The coyote's last howl still prickled the hairs on Jack's neck when the canyon walls first caught the dawn's pink light. They had ridden through the thirsty dark, following Eli's instincts more than tracks, the desert playing tricks with every shadow. Now the narrow pass opened before them like a stone throat, its high walls still damp with morning dew. "Hold up." Eli swung down, pressing calloused fingers to the sand. Hoofprints, fresh enough to taste. Deputy Tate rubbed at his bloodshot eyes. "Grangers?" The rifle shot cracked before Jack could answer. Tate gasped as the bullet tore through his shoulder. Then the canyon exploded with gunfire, lead whining off red rocks like angry hornets. Jack dragged the choking deputy behind a boulder as Eli's Winchester barked back at the cliffs. "Ambush." Eli spat a stream of tobacco. Someone sang like a goddamn canary. Jack's gut twisted. Only 3 souls knew their route. 20 miles east, Clara's wrists burned raw against the ropes. The bandits had gotten careless after the whiskey started flowing, leaving her tied near the supply crates. Their first mistake. Their second was the skinning knife hidden under a moldy flour sack. The rope snapped with a satisfying pop. Clara lunged for the blade just as boots scuffed behind her. "Well, well," Silas's shadow swallowed her whole. "Aren't you full of surprises?" She spun with the knife, but Silas didn't even reach for his coat, just smiled that crooked smile. "Damn shame," he mused, circling like a wolf around campfire light. "A woman with your fire, wasted on some tin star." Clara slashed. Silas caught her wrist, twisting until the knife thudded in the dirt. "He's coming for you," she spat. Silas's grin vanished. He dragged her to the cliff's edge where gun smoke curled below. "Oh, I'm counting on it." His breath reeked of revenge. "That canyon's where your sheriff pays his debts." Behind the boulder, Tate's face had gone the color of old parchment. "Sorry, Sheriff. Told Mary just to say goodbye." Jack's blood turned to ice. The baker's daughter, sweet Mary, who'd pressed fresh biscuits into their saddlebags, who'd wept when they rode out. Eli cursed. Girl's been spooning Granger's lieutenant since spring. Another bullet sparked off stone. Tate's eyes flooded shut. Jack pressed his bandana to the wound, but his mind raced back to a Laramie jail cell 2 years gone, to Silas's brother sobbing as the noose tightened. "You'll answer for this," the dying man had wheezed. Now that debt was coming due in blood and canyon dust. Above them, vultures circled. The gunfire had stopped. The silence was worse. Jack checked his coat. 6 bullets, 1 for each man between him and Clara, and a 7th if it came to that. The vultures still circled when Jack pressed his back against the hideout's wooden palisade. Eli had taken the wounded Tate back to Red Creek, leaving only the sheriff's colt and a burning need to finish this. Dawn's first light bled through the canyon, painting the bandit camp in shades of rust and gold. Somewhere beyond that wall, Clara was alive. He knew it by the way his wedding band grew warm against his skin. A drunken sentry stumbled past. Jack's arm shot out, dragging the man into the shadows. The knife at his throat tasted of last night's whiskey. "Where's the woman?" The bandit's eyes rolled white. "Main tent, Silas's." The knife hilt silenced him. Clara counted heartbeats between guard rotations. The stolen Derringer weighed heavy in her boot, her third escape attempt tonight. Silas had taken to tying her hands in front now, a mistake he'd regret. Outside, laughter erupted as someone kicked over a lantern. Flames licked at dry canvas. "Fire!" Chaos erupted. Clara drove her elbow into her guard's gut, then brought bound fists down on his neck. He crumpled like wet paper. Jack moved through smoke like a vengeful ghost. 2 bandits fell before they could draw. A third took a bullet between the eyes. Then Silas emerged from the burning tent, dragging Clara by her hair. "Look what wandered in!" Blood streaked the outlaw's face. "Come to watch your woman burn, Harding?" Clara's knee found Silas's groin. He howled, backhanding her to the dirt. Jack's Colt clicked empty. Silas laughed, drawing his own pistol, then paused. With deliberate cruelty, he unbuckled his gun belt. "Old school, lawman, for my brother." They crashed together like wild bulls. Jack's knuckles split on Silas's teeth. A knee drove into his ribs. Somewhere, Clara screamed his name. Silas's fist found Jack's wound from Laramie. White pain exploded as the outlaw whispered, "He begged at the end, just like you will." A gunshot ripped the morning apart. Jack blinked blood from his eyes. Silas stood frozen, a Derringer smoking in his offhand. Behind him, Clara clutched her bleeding shoulder. You missed!" Jack spat. Clara smiled through the pain. "No, I didn't." Silas looked down at the knife suddenly protruding from his gut. Clara's hidden blade thrown true. His boot caught the burning tent flap. For one endless moment, Silas Granger teetered on the edge of the inferno, his face twisting with the same terror his brother must have felt. Then the flames took him. Jack caught Clara as her knees gave out. The camp burned around them, but her breath was warm against his neck. "Took you long enough," she murmured. Somewhere in the fire, Silas's screams faded to nothing. The debt was paid. The acrid smell of burning canvas still clung to Jack's clothes as he staggered through the canyon's mouth, Clara's weight heavy in his arms. Her blood seeped through the makeshift bandage, each drop painting the sand like tiny roses. "Still with me, firecracker?" His voice cracked with exhaustion. Clara's lashes fluttered. "Just saving you the trouble of carrying me over the threshold." Her weak chuckle turned into a cough. The sun climbed higher, baking the desert into a shimmering mirage. Jack's boots dragged through the dust, each step sending fresh pain through his ribs where Silas had kicked him. Behind him, black smoke curled into the cloudless sky, a funeral pyre for ghosts bitter lift buried. Red Creek's church bell tolled 3 mournful notes as they limped into town. The streets emptied before them, faces pressed to windows, whispers trailing in their wake. Only old Doc Henderson came forward, his medical bag clutched in shaken hands. "Bring her inside," he ordered, eyeing Clara's shoulder. "And someone fetch the baker. His daughter's got explaining to do." Jack stiffened. The pieces clicked. Mary's tearful goodbye, the ambush in the canyon, Tate's bleeding shoulder. His fingers itched for his Colt. Clara's hand found his. "Later," she murmured. The doc's office smelled of carbolic and regret. Jack paced like a caged wolf, while Clara bit down on leather as Henderson probed her wound. "Bullet went clean through," the doc announced, "but the dress is done for." Clara grinned through gritted teeth. "Guess we'll need a new wedding dress." Outside, raised voices erupted. Jack threw open the door to find the townsfolk circling the baker, a meek man with flour in his beard, now sobbing into his hands. "He said they'd kill Mary if I didn't talk." The baker collapsed to his knees. "She's all I got since her mama." Jack's badge caught the sunlight as he ripped it from his vest. The metal landed in the dust with a dull thud. "That's justice ain't always clean, but it's done now." 1 week later, Clara stood at the same church altar, her bandaged arm tucked through Jack's. This time, no outlaws interrupted as the preacher pronounced them man and wife. The townsfolk cheered, even the baker, although his smile didn't reach his eyes. As Jack kissed his bride, the setting sun painted Clara's face in gold. For the first time in years, something like peace settled in his chest. But up in the high bluffs, a lone rider watched through a brass spyglass. The man lowered the lens, revealing eyes as cold as the Laramie winter. He touched the faded noose scar around his neck, the twin to Silas's mark, and turned his horse east. The desert wind carried away his whisper. "Reckon the sheriff forgot. Grangers always come in threes."
If you enjoyed listening to this story, do well to subscribe and drop your thoughts in the comment section. See you on our next video. Toodles!